Hey guys, Chris here from Carolot Farm. Today we are searching for garden pests. It's the middle of July and I am beginning to see signs of multiple little critters. I say critters, these are more insects that are beginning to nip my plants and cause some issues. So today I want to try to get to the bottom of it and figure out just what we're up against. Early this morning, when my husband and I first came out to the garden, we did find a hornworm that had been feasting on one of our pepper plants. It was a hatch chili plant, so we were very sad about that. But as I go about my gardening routine today, I am continuing to look for more signs of the hornworm because I am pretty sure that if there's one, there are more. And you know, what I'm seeing on some of my tomatoes is looking pretty suspicious. The nips that are here look different from the pruning job that I did a few days ago. So I do want to look very carefully. The hornworms, I will say though, they're green and they blend in really, really well. So they're kind of hard to find, but I do need to keep my eyes peeled because if we see them, I do want to pull them off the plants for sure. When I first came to the garden this morning to do a little check on things, I noticed that something has nipped my pepper plant. Now, this is a special plant to us. It is one of 4 hatch chilies. We've worked very hard to grow these plants, but you can see that something has come and really just chewed off these branches. And at first I thought, well, maybe it was a rabbit. And my husband said, no, it's too high for a rabbit. We thought, well, maybe the groundhog. And then we noticed down on the ground all of these little black balls of, I guess it's poop. Clearly they're not rabbit, they're not groundhog. And so as we did a little more inspecting, we did find what has not only left those little black balls, but what ultimately had quite a feast on our hatch pepper here. This is what we just found eating our hatch chili pepper plant. A new pest in the garden. When it comes to squash and zucchini, one of the most common bugs, pests you're going to find are squash bugs. Now, squash bugs are also known to enjoy laying their eggs and feasting upon your cucumbers as well as your pumpkins. But my squash and zucchini here are usually the hardest hit. And something that we do to help slow the process is we pick the bugs off and we put them into a jug. This is a laundry detergent jug that has some water in it. And so rather than squash the bugs, which I've heard can actually attract more bugs, we pick them and we put them into the jug. And if you see eggs on the leaf, you can also scrape those off. And so those are 2 ways that you can very naturally help to deter and slow the infestation, but nothing is usually 100% foolproof. Here is an adult squash bug. They can really do a number on your pumpkins, squash, zucchini, cucumbers. They lay their eggs on oftentimes the underside of the leaf. Let's see if I can find some of those to show you. More young bugs here. These are squash bugs again. These are my pumpkin plants, and I do need to dust them because I am seeing a lot, oh my goodness, I am seeing a lot of squash bugs. Another common insect pest in the garden are Japanese beetles. And these Japanese beetles have been feasting on my green bean plants. And like my pumpkins, I will probably give them a light dusting of diatomaceous earth just to see if we can't help deter some of that. These plants are rather mature, they're beginning to flower, and we do hope to harvest in a couple of days, so I don't want to put anything harsh on them. Another crop that is oftentimes nibbled on by Japanese beetles are the okra plants. The okra plants, have some signs of having been nibbled upon. And oh yes, so here is a leaf that not only has a few at the top of it, but there is one underneath here. So I might even dust these guys a little. My okra plants are beginning to produce okra pods, and I cut the first helping just the other day. So again, we do want to protect these as best we can. Another crop we have here on the farm that the beetles love, the Japanese beetles I mean, are the grapes. They really just do a number on the grapes. So those are always hardest hit, it seems. And then I would say, the okra and the green beans. I'm not sure that I really noticed them on the green beans before though, but I do see that they are over there today, so I'll want to do what I can to remedy that. We have what are called harlequin bugs on our Brussels sprouts here. They're a little hard to see. There are a few of them here. But they do tend to feast upon cabbages, Brussels sprouts, and other plants as well. But they are really doing quite a number here on this particular crop. And I must confess, our Brussels sprouts never really did anything this year. And so we probably should just pull them up, especially because they are harboring these insects. As I check on my cucumbers, this looks to be a stink bug. I don't believe it's a squash bug, given the shape. And I'm not really sure how detrimental they are or are not to the garden. I should look that up, but that appears to be a stink bug there. I did just check on stink bugs because I had to know for myself, do they harm garden plants? And the answer is yes, which is not surprising, or else they probably wouldn't be here on the garden plants. Stink bugs, though, similar to squash bugs and those harlequin bugs and a lot of other bugs and beetles, they are known to, penetrate into the stalks and kind of like, suck out nutrients, and that can really zap your plants. It can cause them to wilt. Too much damage from these bugs and beetles can certainly kill your plants. And some of these beetles are also known to actually bore down into the roots, and that can then also kill your plants. So there are lots of garden pests that can do a little damage to a lot of damage. And, you just have to kind of keep your toes and fingers crossed that you don't have a crop that gets totally decimated before you can step in and hopefully remedy the situation. Here's a look at that June bug. They are not ideal for your garden. Like a lot of other insects and such, not only will they feast on the leaves, but their larvae can cause a lot of damage to the plant, being as they are laid underground. Now this particular June bug, I am wondering if those aren't eggs all on the back side of it. I'm not sure. You see these little brown bumps on its legs, on its backside. I would have to bet that those are eggs. I might pull that one off and just put it into my bug bucket. Here we have 2 squash bugs. I'm gonna do the same for them. I'm gonna pluck them off this here plant and pop them into my bug bucket. As you can see, there are all sorts of pests and insects over here on our cucumbers. This seems to be the most highly concentrated area for a variety of bugs. And, I think we will go ahead and dust everything with diatomaceous earth, and hopefully that will deter the bugs. I hate the thought of harming the bees. Hopefully it isn't too detrimental to them. But I think that's our first course of action here with these crops. I have found another little beetle here. This beetle is more of a pinkish reddish orange color with black polka dots. It is not a ladybug, but I'll have to do my research and see if I can figure out what it technically is. But this is the first I've seen, and I'm still here at the cucumbers. There goes that little pinkish polka dotted beetle scurrying up. As I go about my bug collecting, I will share that the June bugs are the slowest, followed by the squash bugs, and the stink bugs have been a bit elusive. They are quick to get away. On our eggplant, we get these little teeny tiny black bugs, and they can do quite a number to the leaves as well. Now this is another eggplant, and yes, the little black bugs do chew on it, but I am also seeing that we have Japanese beetles that are also doing a number on it here. So again, just this time of year, there are so many pests out in the garden. It's just the cycle of life, the cycle of gardening. Another crop we have here on the farm that is likely to attract squash bugs and similar sort of insects are the birdhouse gourds. They're pretty smelly, and so I didn't think that the insects would bother them, but I have seen squash bugs on these plants before. And so again, because this sits so close to the large garden, I want to be mindful that we don't have a huge infestation here, that it's just going to hop next door to, I'll show you. So this is the wild compost with birdhouse gourds. And then just beside it here within the garden, we have pumpkins here in the corner, and then our cucumbers sit just above the pumpkins. So because these are all very similar crops and they have similar pests that can really cause damage, we just would be mindful that we're not, harboring something from one side to the other. As you can see, we found a bunch of pests in the garden today, from the striped cucumber beetle to a whole variety of squash bugs. The younger ones are gray, and as they grow and mature, they turn brown. We found a spotted cucumber beetle, and then we also, on the cucumber plants, found the stink bug. It looks similar to the squash bug, but the shape and size is different, and we also found that giant June bug. Now, a different pest that we found on the eggplant was the flea beetle, and they can really do a number on the leaves. But don't forget, we started the morning off with a giant hornworm eating my pepper plant. So many pests in the garden. But the flowers, they tend to attract more friends to the garden. We have a bunch of birds that come. They really enjoy the sunflower seeds. And then we have a variety of bees. We have honeybees and we have bumblebees. The other friend that we found in the garden was the pink lady beetle. I was not familiar with these, but I'm glad to know that they are a friend, not a foe. Thank you so much for joining me today as we went hunting in search of all sorts of critters here in the garden. Again, the insects are really bad this time of year, so I hope you have found this helpful. We've worked to identify a few bugs. So if you see a little beetle or a bug or some sort of critter in your garden, my recommendation would be to go ahead and pick it off and put it into a bucket of water, preferably with a lid, because sometimes they do have a way of hopping out, climbing out, flying out. But yeah, I hope you found this helpful, and check back, because here at the garden, this time of year, we're always up to something. Bye guys.